Let's have fun with canisters today. I've got a set of 8, 27 and 15 ounces for each with wood tops. These are bamboo wood tops. First thing I did was take the rubber gasket off that makes it airtight on the glass jar, and I have 2-inch painter's tape. Oh, it's about 1.5 inch painter's tape. Regardless, it was too tall for my needs. So for the cups that I'm going to sit it on to raise it up off of the surface so the resin didn't drip down and stick, you can see there I had to go in and trim it back about 1/2 inch so that when I set it on the little 2-ounce cup to raise it up off the surface, it raised up above. So all I'm doing here is taking off the gasket and getting that tape right up against the edge to reduce the amount of cleanup that I will need to do once they're done. There's always going to be a minor amount of cleanup when resin drips over an edge, but this seals it so that it's not quite so much mess to clean up. And after I trim that little 1/2 inch off, I'm going to go around and press the tape down really good so that I've got a nice seal. And then I'm going to get some tape, some regular Scotch tape, and fold it over to make it double-sided and stick to the little cup. Those are 2-ounce sauce cups that I use to raise the lids up. And I do that a couple of reasons. When I'm using the heat gun on high, it's not going to blow the lids off of the cup. And there's a section here where I'm going to press the edges so that the resin goes evenly all around the edges. I have mixed up 6 ounces of my trusty ProGlas 1000 resin. You all know it's my go-to resin and all that I use. So I mixed up 6 ounces, and I'm using Mermaid Trash mica powder and pigment paste. The colors I used were Sapphire Bay is the dark blue, and Gulfstream is that gorgeous green. And then I used the lace white pigment paste, which is just about the only thing I use to make waves when I do ocean waves, which is a great deal of what I do. So you want to stir that pigment paste up really well so you get all the components all mixed together well. And I use a pretty good chunk of it, even in a small amount. And you would just want to make sure that it's stirred into the resin really, really well. So take the time to just make sure it's mixed really well. And on mica powder, a little tip with mica powder, when you first start to stir it, it wants to explode and go up and out of the cup and go everywhere. So I'm kind of slow and intentional when I first start to stir. I kind of try to push it down into the resin and then stir it. And then you want to stir it really, really, really well, because what can happen with mica powder is it will have minute clumps. And when you pour that resin, those clumps will just be a dry spot of powder in the middle of your pour. And then when you try to lift it out, it can cause what's called a fisheye, which is just this little circle, almost a divot. You just don't want it. So when you're mixing your mica powder in, take the time to mix it really, really well, and probably a little longer than you think is necessary. And then when you're ready to pour, give it another quick stir just to make sure that things haven't separated and you have nice uniform color across the piece. So now that I've got everything poured, I'm using my index finger to spread the blue and my middle finger to spread the blue and my index finger to spread the green, just so that I don't mix the two and make it muddy. Here in a minute, I'm going to, what's the word? I'm gonna mix the blue and the green together so I don't have a hard line of demarcation. It kind of makes it look like it would in the ocean where the colors meld together. But I wanted to be careful not to mix the colors so much when I'm spreading the color that it looks muddy. And once I get them all spread around on the top like I want them, I'm gonna dip my fingers back in the individual colors and go over the edges so that the edges are smooth. And if I had not double taped the Scotch tape and adhered these tops to the cup, those tops would have been pushing all over the place and falling off the cups. So an individual lightweight thing like these lids, they're bamboo, so they're very lightweight. You always want to tape them down and secure them really nicely. And this causes a lot of drips that we'll have to clean up after the fact, but the finished product is nicer for the effort, so it's worth it. So once I change out my gloves, I am going to pour a little layer of clear resin, and then I will pour the white resin. And I do that because the white resin flows much nicer if it has a layer of clear resin to kind of ride over the top. So I always lay a layer of clear before I lay down the layer of white. You just get a much nicer ocean wave, and you get much more cells that way. And once this is finished, I always torch it really good because that heats up the white pigment in the resin and makes it thinner, so it blows nicer and accelerates the cells. I went through and blew this out on low, and it really didn't move the white pigment as much as I wanted it to, so I go back then and blow it out on high to get the effect that I wanted. After I did that, I was much happier with the look. And I'm going to give it a final torch to get rid of any bubbles and leave it to cure overnight. Here we are the next day, and it's time to get all the tape off. I'm going to put a glove on one hand because these have cured about 15 to 18 hours. It wasn't quite a full 24 hours. And I did not want to risk leaving fingerprints on the resin. So with my left hand, I'm holding the piece, and the glove keeps the fingerprints from adhering or imprinting onto them. So here I'm just going through and getting the tape off. There were areas where there were more drips and the tape didn't come off as easily. but I'll show you here shortly how we take care of that. All in all, most of the tape came off pretty easily. And of course, I've speeded up the video so it's not as slow and tedious for you to watch all of this process, but it does go fairly quickly. I'm glad that I took this tape off before 24 hours went by, because the resin, where it did really stick, was pliable enough that it was pretty easy for me to get off. If I'd let that sit for more than 24 hours, it would have really been a beast to get all that tape off. Was really, really happy with the way that these colors moved and the ocean waves looked. And I love this color combination with the Mermaid Trash mica powders. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous color combination and very popular. Everything I've made in this color combination is sold pretty quickly. So apparently people besides me like it. So I'm just going to show you on one of the tops how I went back and got rid of that tape that was right up at the edge that the resin was really dripped over. I've got an X-Acto knife here, and what I do is I use the X-Acto knife point to get up under the tape and lift, and then I go in and use the flat of the sharp edge of the knife to press and cut those drips. And then I go back, that's an 80 grit roll of sanding paper that I go through and smooth it out where there's any rough ridges. And this takes a little bit of time, but a nice smooth finished product is worth it. So there I'm just using the flat of the blade to lift away those drips and the tape, and they came off pretty easily. Once finished, I just went all around the piece with the sanding block, and then I took a baby wipe and wiped away all the dust from the edges and the top, and then used a soft microfiber cloth to smooth it all out and get rid of any water stains that might be on it. Once I'd cleaned up all of the tops, I got the rubber gasket back out and reattached it to all of the pieces again, so that these are airtight. If you want to use them for canisters for food such as spices, coffee, sugar, oh gosh, the possibilities are endless. Pasta, beans, dog treats, candy, you name it. And these come with a little chalkboard peel and stick piece that you can write what's in them on it. And that's your finished piece. They turned out beautiful. In fact, I took this set of 8 to a Facebook Live event and sold half of them almost immediately. This is how they turned out, and I was really happy with the look. I'll be making a lot of these in the future, I'm sure. I hope you enjoyed this video, and send me your ideas on what you'd like to see me make, or tell me what you've been working on. I'd love to know what you've got going on in your workroom or your craft room. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.